My name is Robbie Farlow, and I am the Quest Master over at SideQuest Fitness. This is my interview with the one and the only Ransom Pugh of the Order of Muscle and Magicka. A subscriber of his on YouTube and a follower of mine as well, Otto, reached out to me and told me, he was like, Robbie, look, you need to get Ransom on your show. You guys are brothers from another mother. And he wasn't lying. We are literally brothers from another mother. But today you can watch on YouTube, usually things that you would only get on iTunes, Podcast Republic, or wherever you listen to episodes of podcasts. Today you can watch this episode on YouTube. It is Ransom and I talking about his story, the things he's done to conquer his fitness quest, and so much more. Stay tuned. There's about 5 minutes at the end of bonus material that we recorded before we even got onto the podcast. So I think you'll enjoy this episode. This interview with Ransom Pugh, the leader of the Order of Muscle and Magicka.
All right, I'm just going to say I'm going to start the show and then I'll cut things here.
Okay.
I'm going to let you introduce yourself. I'll give you a little general. The show is set up sort of like Tim Ferriss and Nerdist had a love child, and that love child was the most nerdy kid who ever was birthed into this world. But I can see you're drinking you're drinking some sort of beverage. I will assume it is a tasty alcoholic beverage. If not, whatever, doesn't matter. I did squats today, so I'm drinking some bourbon later tonight because I live by the phrase scotch and squats.
Okay, sounds good. I'll just let you in. It's just some coffee. It's nothing too exciting.
Dude, I can't do coffee after 3 p.m. If I do coffee after 3 p.m., I don't sleep. I sleep like shit.
I'm pushing it right now at 6. I'm really pushing it, and I have sleep issues as well, so it's probably a bad idea, but I said screw it.
But it's basically just like two guys hanging out at the bar, having a drink, just chilling. We're gonna nerd out. We'll talk about fitness stuff. We'll talk about what you're doing, your story, because you have a great story, and it's the story. Stories are what matter. If you had a game without a good story, no one would want to play it. A game with a great story, even if it doesn't have a lot of words like Journey and still makes me cry in the end, it has a great story.
For sure.
Storytelling is what matters. So we're gonna tell yours, but with some fun nerd stuff as well. So
sounds perfect.
All right, guys, welcome to a brand new episode of SideQuest Podcast. My nerd level is at 10,000 right now. It's in the stratosphere. I have one of the coolest guests that I could ever have on the show. A guest that was given to me by one of you guys, a listener, reached out to me on the Facebook page and said, Robbie, you need to get this guy on the show. He has a YouTube channel called Muscle and Magicka. And I'm like, all right, the dude's got Muscle and Magicka in his name. Basically, we're going to be best friends. I go to his YouTube channel and I'm immediately like, I can't do this YouTube thing. I think I'm going to stick with podcast. This dude is doing with YouTube what I would love to do, except he's way more charismatic than me and prettier. I'm not going to lie. I'm a nice looking ginger. I'm a nice looking. Yeah, but you got that skin tone. Listen, if I take my shirt off, people are going to think they're going to die from the white light that just blinded them in the face. They're going to be like, oh God, what happened? There was a plane crash and I...
You know what? At least you've got a full head of hair, though. That's what I get a lot. People be asking me when I'm about to shave my head because, especially with the green screen effects, you can see the fading, you can see the receding hairline there a little bit. Gonna have to adjust the hair slider in character creation.
I don't know if you know this, but there are some people in the fitness industry that are big names and they're all bald. So I think that's the key. We just shave the head and it's instantly you're just famous in the fitness industry.
I think you're exactly right.
But I had to get him on the show, so I reached out. He has an amazing story. He's overcome a lot. Overcome. Wow. I speak English.
Speechcraft.
Speechcraft. He has a great story. He loves lifting, but at his heart, he is a gamer. He is a man after my own heart. But I love all of his work and the things that he's putting out. And it's not just a bunch of random, it's meaningful. He's got science to back it up. He believes some of the same things that I do. And I had to get him on the show. But the guild master, the head of the Order of the Knights of Muscle and Magicka, Ransom Pugh, welcome to the show.
Thank you, and you do me far too much honor. You just blew my name up way bigger than it needed to be. You don't need to be feeding my ego like that, man. So But I say to you, well met, and thank you so much for having me on here. I assumed we already were best friends. I had to go check on Facebook to see if I assumed that we had just been known each other for years after because the same guy that mentioned me to you mentioned you to me, and I said the same thing that you did. I was like, how do I not? This sounds exactly up my alley. Why are we not already kin?
It's the internet. It really is amazing how deep the internet is. You think about it being small, but it's a pretty big space. All right, guys. Oh man, we had to hit the reset button, and then put the Konami code in to make sure that this was going to work. Stupid Skype issues. Skype. Come on, you were bought by Micro. Oh wait, that makes sense why you have. Because we couldn't make Team Chat work for a while on the Xbox and shenanigans.
But we're not bitter. We're not
bitter. No.
Whatever.
We're not. Don't even get me started on Battlefront. Don't get me started. Don't get me started. I'm not gonna get started. All right. So I want to know your story. You have a great story. So how did you get from where you were now to being the YouTube sensation and the leader of Muscle and Magicka?
Right. Okay. So just to give you I guess we'll take a few steps back. I was always, so you know how you kind of have, like, for the most part, you have sort of the two camps where you've got your hard gainers who are having trouble putting on weight, can't, they think they're eating everything in the world, but they can't gain a pound. And then you got your sort of chronically fat people who, whatever they can just look at a pickle and they'll gain 8 pounds, right? That was me. I've always been overweight. I grew up overweight. I've always been somebody who does a lot of like fad dieting, and I would get really skinny and then I would, just immediately blow back up. So I spent most of my life doing that kind of thing. And for me, losing weight was something that was possible, but it was sort of, it was determinant on basically just willpower and guesswork, right? And hopefully if I picked the right diet, and then stuck with it long enough and made myself miserable enough and deprived myself enough, then I could get, I could get skinny, but then I would gain the weight back. Fast forward through college, it's after college, I'm pretty heavy. I found out that I actually had cancer. A few days before my birthday, actually, I found out I was diagnosed with stage 3 Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer. So this sort of... This changed a lot of things for me in my life, obviously, including but not limited to the way that I approached my training and my nutrition and things like that. The gym sort of began to take on an entirely new meaning to me. That was really, I attribute so much of my recovery to the fact that I was able to still get in the gym. Not as much, obviously, as but... So at that time, I was just finishing up chemo, and a friend of mine put me on, so I'm somebody who comfort eats, right? And it's funny because when you're doing chemo, they're always weighing you every time you go in because they're worried about you losing weight. They don't want you losing weight because a lot of people, they lose their appetite. They don't eat. I was exactly the opposite, right? So they were always telling me like, "Oh, you're doing good. You've gained weight," and I'm like, "No, that's not. There's nothing good about that. What do you mean I'm doing?" So anyway, I was at my heaviest point, I think, after I got done with the chemo. And a friend of mine put me on a ketogenic diet at that time, okay? This was both good and bad for me because it was good in that it was the first thing that introduced to me the concept of tracking calories or just even being aware of my intake in general, right? It was bad for me because the ketogenic diet sort of... led me down a road of restricting certain types of foods, which ended up having some, repercussions on my relationship with food later on down the line. But anyway, long story, less long, I guess. For me, what really clicked, the ketogenic diet was working wonders for me. And it sort of introduced me to this idea of energy balance and just the science behind why why weight loss happens. What is a caloric deficit and what causes weight loss. And so for me, and obviously, counting calories is not for everyone. For me personally, having something tangible to keep track of, and taking it out of the realm of guesswork and hoping that if I ate the right foods or did the right thing, taking it out of that realm of abstraction and putting like numbers to it was monumental for me. Okay. And so that's sort of what sparked the initial idea, being a gamer, sort of identifying, having numbers to aim for every day with video games and having an experience bar and having it was almost as if I've used this analogy before. I always like to say that I found my experience bar, but it's almost as if I had been playing a game with do you play a lot of Skyrim?
Dude, are you kidding
me?
I mean, I put like 96 hours into it before I decided, okay, I need to actually finish this game, or I'm gonna like I was at the point where I was like, I'm gonna lose my fiance if I don't stop.
Yes. So you will know it was as if I had PC or console.
It was 360.
Okay, you'll still understand. It was as if I had hit what is it, the little tilde button, I think. It was as if I had hit the tilde button on Skyrim and typed TGM and toggle menu, and all of the interface was off, right?
Yeah.
And I've been living my life playing this game without any life bars over anyone, without any idea of when I was going to level up or how or why, and suddenly somebody came and like hit the button and turned the UI on for me, and now I could see everything. I could see how much damage I was doing. I could see my little experience bar, and I knew that when I was going to level up because I knew my maintenance. I knew how much I was eating, so that was really, really huge for me. And that is, I mean, I do what I do with Muscle and Magicka because, I'm passionate about nutrition and, I want to help people and because I love gaming, but it's less about just the fact that I'm a nerd and I love gaming, more about the fact that I want people to be able to, even if they don't track calories or whatever, I want people to be able to take their fitness and their nutrition out of the realm of guesswork and abstraction and into the like concrete realm where it's like, I don't have to hope, I don't have to wonder. This is how you do it,
Yeah.
So that's my story, I suppose.
No, I agree. That's how I started to view nutrition myself was, all right, well, this is the XP. This is the XP I have for the day. This is my magic level, and this is what I have to get. And if I get more, well, I mean, then I got to find a bunch of other bottles to store these fairies in, and those bottles are fat cells, and I don't really want all those bottles.
Right.
And if I eat less, then I'm not going to have the stamina to get through, and I'm not going to have the energy to. Yeah, I mean, I did many of the same things. So were you out of college when you were diagnosed with cancer?
I was fresh out of college. My buddy and I were getting ready to move to Chicago. He joined the Army, and I'm sure we'll talk about this later because you mentioned this to me that you also have a theater degree. So I am also an actor. This is one of the quests, I guess, that I go. But so I was thinking also about joining the Air Force and getting some life experience and saving up some money. I thought the experience would be great for me as an actor, and obviously the money is always great. But so I had just graduated, and I was getting ready to start doing the stuff to get ready for boot camp and all that stuff. And that's when I got diagnosed. And it's interesting because, man, I could be a completely different person in a completely different place had that not happened. And I'm not sure if I was really ready for the life that I was getting ready to set out onto, you know what I mean? But anyway.
It's interesting that you say that. I mean, it sounds like you took a thing like cancer and you turned it around. You made something really positive out of it. Which is hard for a lot of people to do, especially when you're young and you have that diagnosed. Like, that you're often told that your recovery rate and your ability to fight it is much better, but it's still sort of like, what the fuck? I'm like out of college. Like, what do you? No, no. Fuck you, life. Like,
right?
Really? Like, so
and
how did you react to it when that sort of came down?
It was a little bit of both. There's the element that you mentioned first, which is there were a lot of people, when you're in that place, like it's not really a hospital, it's like a special center, at least for me it was. You see a lot of people. For me it was every 2 weeks, right? I would go in Fridays. I would go in Fridays and get my chemo, and I would have just enough time to go straight there to the gym and get another workout in before like the fog hit, right?
Yeah.
And then like Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, maybe a little bit of Wednesday, I would just be kind of done. And then I would have a week and a half to function as a normal human being before I got another chemo. And when you're in the place, you see a lot of people, and you're all hanging around for a couple hours. So sometimes you talk to people, and a lot of them were, much, much, much older people. And they would always say the same thing to me. Like, you shouldn't be, you're like, that's not right that you're here now. You shouldn't have to deal with this. And to me, it was very much like I felt so incredibly fortunate to have gotten it when I was that age. Looking at all these people around me, and they're just, it just utterly destroys them, right? They can't, like, they're just out, and I'm sitting there like eating some Fritos or whatever, and I don't feel good, but I'm not like that person across from me, right? So on the one hand, there was that. On the other hand, it is very much what you said, like, what the heck? I know for me, and I'm sure if you ask my parents, it's a completely different story. For me, Hodgkin's they tell you this, Hodgkin's is sort of like the best cancer to get if you're going to get cancer, right? Yeah. So for me, it was less about facing my mortality and worrying about, am I going to make it through this? I was pretty sure that I was from the outset. But for me, it was like, can I still go to the gym? Because if you tell me no, if the doctor were to tell me no, I'd be like, I guess I'm dying of cancer. So once I found out that he was not only okay with it, but that he encouraged it, I was pretty much set. Like, it sucked, and there were a lot of, I'm sure I was probably no fun to be around a lot of times from the complaining, and there were, all the whole ordeal and all of the things that come with it. But really, like, on a meaningful level, I still got to continue to like live my life and do what was most important to me. So I was like, all right, cool, let's do it.
I don't know. I have never been through that experience. I have a good friend of mine who went through that. But I love that you're like, oh, I can still go to the gym. All right, cool. You're like, it didn't really impair your life. Did you get like gaming wise, did you still have the energy for that? Were you gaming more? Like, was your life literally just like gym, chemo, games, gym, chemo, games?
That was my exact routine. It really was, man. Obviously, like, sometimes, like, right after the chemo, like, for that weekend, I was pretty much out just doing nothing. But I was either at chemo, or I was in bed, or I was at the gym, or I was playing games. It was which, I'm somebody who's, my life, I've always had a pretty sedentary life and a relatively high sort of body fat set point. So I'm sure all the sedentary gaming didn't do much to help my energy level at the time. But yeah, man, it was, games for me have always been very much an escape, but especially at that time, yes.
What games have been the ones that allowed you to escape the most? Whether it was during cancer, or whether it was, being a teenager and not getting the girls, or whether it was college and being like, I don't really want to go to this party, so I'm just gonna go play some Metroid Prime instead. Like,
yes.
What games allowed you to escape?
I'm gonna give you two not so much games, as much as serieses, which are probably my top two favorite serieses of all time, and that is Elder Scrolls #1. Like, I'm so into the lore of the Elder Scrolls series.
Yeah.
I've been playing it since Morrowind, and so, like, even into the deeper, like, metaphysical stuff. That game, just because of the universe and the, like, I don't know any other series to me that has such a rich, deep, like, well-built universe and lore.
There's so, like, I didn't have a PC until 99. So I didn't, like, I grew up a console kid. Like, I had a Nintendo, like, like, as you said, I had a Super Nintendo. I begged my parents for a Dreamcast. Then I had an Xbox, and then moved on from there. But like I didn't really play PC games, and so I didn't really get into Elder Scrolls until like Oblivion. So it was Oblivion and then Skyrim, just because I missed out on the PC days, except for Command and Conquer, Red Alert. Red Alert was my shit.
Okay.
I was all about some Red Alert. Well, because you can't play a real time strategy on a console. You can't. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, you go into those wikis, but even like the tomes in like Skyrim and Oblivion, it's mentioning things and the stories that it tells, and it's like, oh my god, like this is its own universe.
And it's funny too, because for me, so I played since Morrowind. I never played Arena or Daggerfall. I played Morrowind. I played Oblivion. All expansions of both games. I played Skyrim. It wasn't until like my second or third playthrough in Skyrim that something hit me, and I think it was Dawnguard. I think it was learning about the Snow Elves, and that started to like just learning about getting fed these little pieces of information that are like not blatant, and you start to rethink the way that you've seen the series previously, and like you're introduced to that whole concept of the unreliable narrator, and how there's, for every single subject, there's two or more different viewpoints, and you got to figure out for yourself, what you think is right. So that is what sort of launched me into like, wait a minute, I got to take a step back, because this universe is so much bigger and deeper than I ever had any semblance of an idea that it was. So that was definitely one, and then before that was always Zelda. It was always Zelda.
Of course.
Yeah. I think my first Zelda game was also my first Game Boy game, and that was Link's Awakening.
Yeah. With
the Windfish and all that stuff. And that one and Ocarina probably had the biggest impacts on me. I can remember being a kid and being at like, I don't know, anytime that I was doing something anytime that I was somewhere that I didn't want to be, or, if I was getting made fun of or anything like that, I would just always think like, you know what, if I can get through this, I've got Legend of Zelda waiting for me at home. Link, I don't know I think part of it was the fact that he never said anything, so I got to identify with him a little bit more and sort of be, sometimes you're a character, and when that character is very much written and they have
and it's you speaking. That's one reason why I really loved Mass Effect, was because I got to choose what I wanted. I was Commander Shepard. Which is I think my biggest thing that I teach with, and I try to teach with a lot of my clients. And when a client comes in, I give them a questionnaire, and they get to create their own hero. They get to create their own backstory, their name, where they came from, their weakness, their strength, what they struggle with, because the biggest thing about heroes, and this applies for me with Captain America, with all of the video game like heroes, we connect with those heroes because we see a pieces of ourselves in them. So if you can start like, and one of the challenges I'll give them is, all right, so if Batman is your favorite superhero and you're really struggling with saying no to cake, how would Batman take down the cake? And just imagine yourself defeating that cake as Batman, and all of a sudden something clicks, because you're like, oh, well, I can do this because, well, Batman can do it, but I can do it because a part of you is Batman, maybe minus the pretty women, the fast cars, and all the money, but there's still a part of you. That
is brilliant. That what you just said there is genius. That's genius. I might steal a little bit of that from you one day.
No,
that's beautiful.
Dude, it's fine, because I think that's why the hero's mythos and Joseph Campbell has translated to everything. I mean, that's why we love those stories, because stories give us meaning, and we can find ourselves in that story, because finding who you are and your meaning in life can be the hardest quest you'll ever go on.
Right.
But that's why you need those heroes to look up to. So
absolutely. Yeah. And the best ones have going along with that, the best ones have their flaws. The Supermans and the Gokus are cool, but it's a little bit harder sometimes to identify, because the best ones, I feel like anyway, have those like glaring issues. And watching Goku, it's great to watch Goku do all the stuff that he does, but watching Vegeta do the stuff that he does,
ridiculous,
right? Watching the same man that was willing to let a demon possess his body just in order to beat Kakarot, watching that man tell his son that he loves him for the first time. Oh,
dude, it's a huge arc. It's an arc.
Exactly.
There's something, and we know this as actors. Like,
yes.
Listen. Listen, Romeo is cool and all, and it looks great on your resume, and you want to play him, but you know who you want to play. You know who you want to play because he's got some life. Yeah, you can go sing West Side Story all you want, but you know who you want to play.
Right.
Like when it comes down to it, you want to be that person because they have a breadth to them. They have something. They're more than just a facade.
Uh-huh.
So when you play games, when you're playing an RPG, how do you play them?
I'm
first go around, not a second go around. Are you
Yes.
all out evil? Are you Mr. Nice Guy?
Yes, I'm the kind of person that first playthrough, I'm straight up Mr. Nice Guy, like, paladins, come to save everyone and solve everyone's problems. And then second playthrough, I love the idea of doing the second playthrough. I bet you've seen the same interview. The guy who voiced Shepard, was talking about how he doesn't. He likes to be good his first playthrough. Or no, I'm sorry, I got that wrong. He likes to be evil his first playthrough, and then the second playthrough he'll be good to sort of make up for the sins that he committed the first time, right? Me, I'll go good the first time, and then the second time I'll try to go evil, and I'll still end up going good again because I just can't. I'm not sure what it is. I don't know. I guess I grew up watching Hercules, the legendary journeys, and I just love the idea of that savior that comes and just saves everyone.
Have you gone back to watch some of those episodes?
The Hercules?
Yeah. Have you gone back?
I have to rewatch that series every single year.
Okay.
I have to. I can't make it through a year without rewatching them.
I was gonna say I watched some of it. And I'm like, oh god, they're writing. Oh wait, I remember why this was on like early Saturday mornings. Like, okay, all right. Like
You talking about the live series or
with Kevin Sorbo?
Yes. Yeah, man. And it was, and for all the flaws that show had, I almost think it's kind of like Mortal Kombat. Like the flaws and the shortcomings, kind of like in Mortal Kombat, the laziness of just recoloring sprites and using the same exact dude ended up making it kind of what it was, giving it an endearing quality. And I feel the same about Hercules. But for me, it was all about Kevin Sorbo's portrayal of Hercules. Like if it had been any singular other person, but I've seen Kevin Sorbo in some really bad stuff. I'm not even that. I almost don't even want to say I'm a huge Kevin Sorbo fan because I've seen a lot of stuff that he did. Usually it's the material that he's given. It's just not good material. But I'm telling you, he was born for that role, man. He brought a humanity to Hercules that I didn't even know the character was capable of. You know what I'm saying?
No, I mean I agree. It's hard when you have a character, and I think that's the one thing I think that's why I love Cap more than any other superhero, because he knows deep down that he has, with great power comes great responsibility. Yeah, thank you, Uncle Ben. But like he knows that. He knows that like I have this thing and I have to battle with the fact that I could kill any man alive.
Right.
But I don't want to do that. Like that's not who I am. And I think the way Sorbo did Hercules is like, I mean, I'm technically half god. I could basically kill every human alive.
Yes.
But I want to stand up for these people because I know the weird, things that are going. Like, no, like I don't want the gods to oppress them.
Yes, and that was it too. It was almost there's the I remember learning in school the concept of like the Jesus figure who's almost what he is. It's like he is a god. He is God, but he still sympathizes with humanity, which makes us as humans feel incredible that this hero holds out hope for us despite all the ridiculous things that we're running around doing and the way that we treat him. Did you see the one where he was on trial because oh my goodness.
Oh dude, I remember I watched plenty of Xena and Hercules growing up. I remember being up early for some WCW matches, and then I was watching, and those were the worst wrestling matches. Oh my god, were those awful. And you would watch it for like one guy who's on there for like 3 moves, and he's like, "Really? That's what I watched." Thanks on Saturday morning WCW. But you mentioned that, and not that you are a deity of any sense, but you sort of bring that that are crossing your videos, that humanity, you know, it's like you've gained this knowledge and you could go out and you could do whatever, but you now bring it and make it more human, and you humanize it for everyone, bringing it down to their level, being like, look, there's a lot of bullshit out there, but I'm going to tell you the real truth. Do you recognize that sort of in your own work, that you kind of bring that Herculean? Yes, I pronounced that right.
First of all, that was, again, way too big of a compliment. I think for me, one of the biggest things, so I'm going to throw a few names out and you may recognize some of them, but people like Eric Helms, like Alan Aragon, Lyle McDonald, Lane Norton, people who I've always looked so much up to, obviously Hercules, but people like them who will dive into the science, who know how to read studies really, really well, who jump into all of that stuff and sort of disseminate it and make it digestible to the common man. Yeah. And that's something that I greatly admire and respect. And again, like not to even think about putting myself anywhere near the level that they are, but I like that idea of taking advantage of, you know, the fortune that I have to be able to be privy to some of this information, and then taking it and making it more accessible and fun, you know, and taking it and putting it in a form that people can readily and easily digest. I'll use digest again.
Yeah, I agree. I love those guys. Just never take shots with Alan Aragon. It ends horribly for everyone. What? It ends horribly. I'll tell you about that later. Fitness Summit last year, and woo, that's all I'm gonna say.
No.
And he is also one of the funniest guys I've ever met. Like his one-liners, like, and he is such a dirty person, but it's awesome. No, and I think that's hard for a lot of people, because you want to. There's a lot of bullshit out there in the world, and it's like, do this one superfood, all like, and everything's now like headlines, and headlines are important because you have to grab people's attention in some way. Like, you know, you can make sense, but make sense in your argument. You know, at least pull me in, give me some bait to get me in, and then hook me.
Yeah.
But you know, there is so much out there, and those guys, they read, you know, you're able to get that sort of sense from them. It's not like reading. I've read PubMeds, and I just scan at the bottom, and I'm like, just where's the TLDR? Where's the TLDR? Just,
and you know, it's funny too, because a lot of people now that the science is starting to become more readily available and more people are starting to see value in it. It's sort of a double-edged sword, because it's so easy to read a study the wrong way and to not know what to look for, and to not know the difference between a well-done study and a poorly done one. So now you've got lots of people who are demanding studies and who are cherry-picking things, who don't realize that it's not just as simple as doing exactly what you said and going and reading a conclusion and saying, oh, well, this study says this. You know, there's a little bit more to it than that. And even I, you know, like I said, even I don't always trust myself. That's why if given the option, I would rather go to one of those dudes and see what the meta-analysis is, and see what conclusions they have come to and how they came to them, rather than relying on myself to to be able to make sense of all of that information.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I have to, sometimes I just can't. Like there are people who are very deep, and I'm like, I nerd out on this stuff because I love the science behind it, because I'm a science nerd myself, but sometimes I'm like, there's too much. I need more nerdy references. Give me Star Wars, give me some video games, give me some comic books. Like I can handle that when it comes at me.
Right.
But so you've been on this journey, and I've watched your videos, so I know that you and I had a similar journey. It was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this restrictive diet. You did keto. I did paleo, but kind of was a dick about it.
Okay.
You know, where it's like, yeah, I'm doing paleo. You know, carbs are really bad for you to make you really fat. Oh, hey, would you like a sandwich? No, I don't eat carbs. Like, okay, well, you can just say no. I was that guy too. Yeah.
Can I please tell you that I was at the point where I was like, I actually imagined that I was an alien and that I was better than the other people on this planet because they ate all these foods like pizza but I was an alien, and I could only survive off of things like broccoli and brown rice, right? And chicken, right? Like that's to the point that it was.
And those, I mean, I do love my bro foods. I came off a bulk this winter where I had very high carb and low fat, and basically all I could eat was 4 cups of rice a day. But 6 inches on my butt, I'm very proud of those 4 cups of rice a day.
Yes.
So what was your biggest mistake when you started?
When I started with
your fitness journey, your fitness quest, when you started on this quest, what was your biggest mistake?
Okay. That's a good question. Boy, let me give you 2 of them on both sides of the journey. The when I was still in the forest of bro magic, and then also when I reached enlightenment, if you will. Definitely starting on that cycle of eating clean 6 days of the week and then cheating on the 7th day. That was a very big mistake for me. And it's one that I'm still, I think, paying for to this day. Obviously, the recreational bodybuilding world makes it very easy to slip into these less than ideal relationships with food, right? And that for me did quite a number. I got to the point where I was constantly increasing my caloric deficit because on my cheat days I would go crazier and crazier. And I think this was back before I was even tracking. So basically I was still doing the keto thing, but because I had told myself that I can't eat these foods, I can only eat these foods on my Sundays, like it was over. I just went and bought everything at Walmart and ate all of it. Okay. And so that's something that I still have to, I really have to watch myself when I get towards the end of a dieting phase. I had to be careful about how I'm approaching food and how I'm thinking about it. So that's one. The other one I would say on the other side of things, now that I'm a little bit more informed, and I think we all kind of do this to some degree when we learn, those of us in the sciencey realm, we start to learn about stuff. We start to learn the basics of the actual basic fundamentals of nutrition, and we kind of go from one extreme to the other. So it's like before, it's just what you said. You're like, no, I eat paleo, carbs make you fat, and we're spewing all of that misinformation. To then I hopped straight over to the other side to where I'm like, no, there's nothing wrong with sugar, and everyone should eat as much sugar as they possibly can, and you should just count your calories, but you shouldn't worry about sugar, you shouldn't worry about this and that. And it's not that I didn't place a high value on micronutrients, but it's like you go from one extreme to the other, and you find out about this flexible dieting and all of this stuff, and now you're instead of trying to shove this down everyone's throats, you're trying to shove this down everyone's throats. And so it's kind of like after a while, you come to this balance, and it takes some years to temper. It took some years to temper me a little bit, but I feel like now I have a little bit more of a level head screwed onto my shoulders to where, you realize that this doesn't work for everyone. This doesn't work for everyone. Here's the toolbox, and here's how you start to figure out what tools work for which people. And so, yeah.
Thank you. I think you just inspired an article I'm going to write.
Nice.
On what the real 80-20 principle really stands for. I just came back from a nice weekend with some friends in Florida, and I drank my face off. I ate my face off. Like things that normally I would be like, nope, I have goals, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
But 80% of the time I'm on point. 20% of that's what people really mean by like eating clean and doing all this. Like, yes, and trust me, I love Ben and Jerry's, and if I could, I would fit a pint in every single day of my life. I would do it. But I also kind of like having fattier cuts of meat sometimes. I don't want to just eat tilapia. I'll do it every once in a while. Yeah. But again, that's like a 20% thing.
Yeah. Or like not spending the rest of the day hungry because you saved the calories for a pint of ice cream.
Yeah. Which is, it's not like, it's one of those things that like you do once or twice and you're like, okay, I can do it. I wouldn't want to do it. I wouldn't want to do it every day. Wouldn't want to do it every day.
Been there, yeah.
All right, so let's get into a couple of fun questions. What are you playing right now? What games are you playing right now?
Okay. Let me save that rant. I'm playing, you know what, I'll go into it. I'm playing some Diablo 3 slowly, very slowly. Never played any Diablo before in my life, but man, those I've seen some pictures of Tyrael online, and he just seemed like such a cool character. I've been getting into Diablo 3. I'm just coming off of a game which I've come to realize that I cannot, under any circumstances, continue to play. And that is, I don't know if you've heard much about it. I'm sure you've heard of it, but I don't know if you are very familiar with it. Man, Black Desert Online. Are you familiar?
I have not heard of Black Desert because just being the console guy and the only computers we have in the house are a shitty Chromebook and the Mac.
That's right.
So.
That's right. Okay, let me just give you a brief. Black Desert Online is an MMO, massively multiplayer online. Why am I saying that?
Yeah, well, you don't have to justify it. This audience knows it. You know it. If the audience doesn't know it, they can Google it.
I'm so used to people being like, "What's an MMO?" So I just automatically start saying what it means. So Black Desert Online is a game that I had really thought that I got to the point in my life because I'm a huge RPG person. That's my jam. Huge MMO person. And I thought that I'd gotten to the point in my life where I can responsibly play an MMO and balance game time with real life time and know when to log out. And I thought Black Desert Online took all of that away from me because it would take too long to explain to you all the ways in which it's completely different from any other MMO, but it has actually shifted the paradigm. And a few games have kind of done that. A few MMOs have kind of done that. Black Desert Online really does it, but all that aside, it actively encourages you to leave the game up while you go AFK, while you go to sleep, because at any given moment in the game, there are a million really cool, unique things that you could be spending your time on. And then when you go AFK, there are other things that you can be spending your time on. And so it really, really gets you to always be at it, you know? And as somebody who, if I'm going to make a character in a video game, I need for him to be the best that he can be.
Yeah.
I can't step away from that. And I tried setting my guy on I sent some workers out to go gather some ore, and I set my guy AFK fishing, and I minimized the game, and I turned down the volume, and I started doing some work, and it only took a couple minutes before I was bringing it back up to see what I had caught, and I can't with it. And they have this system whereby you do better at everything if you gather more knowledge about the world around you. And there's a number of ways to do that. But where was I going with that? Anyway, it's a really good game. It has some other faults that I won't go into, except for they gender lock the classes for some reason. So I can't play a paladin because I have to be a girl. But anyway, it's a wonderful game. A lot of really cool things going on for it, but it demands too much of me.
I'm about to buy something that I haven't bought yet.
Okay.
And I know it's going to happen. But I wrote an article that was published on a website I've been reading since college. So I'm like, you know what? I deserve a present to myself.
Yes.
And this RPG that is being an entrepreneur has been beating me down. And you know what? Damn it. I need some treasure. I'm gonna reach in and get some treasure. So and it's gonna happen to me too. My soul's gonna get sucked away because it's gonna happen. If you could write a note to your younger self, what would you say in only 2 words?
Ooh. Ooh. Oh man. Dang, these are some good thought-provoking questions. Okay. You might have to cut out some pause here. Make it sound like I answered immediately. If I had to write a letter to my younger self.
What would you say in only 2 words?
Only 2 words, and it can be about anything.
Anything.
Ooh, man, that's really hard.
You can usually get 3. 3 for me was like, okay, all right, I got 3, and then getting 2 took a minute.
Right. Yeah.
We'll come back to it. I'll let you ponder on that one.
Okay.
All right, if you could be any animal on a carousel, what animal would you be? But let's have a little geek fun here. If you could be any animal from a video game or like Nerdtopia, what animal would you be on a carousel?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So it doesn't have to necessarily be an animal that's already on a carousel.
No, it doesn't have to be a horse or a unicorn or a hippopotamus. It could be any magical creature you've ever wanted to
Okay, and I am the animal, and
You
so
are the
kids
animal. You're the animal, and like kids are riding you on the carousel. Yes.
Okay, got it. Dude, ooh, this is actually okay. I'm gonna have to go with this. This is less gaming. This is more just general nerdiness, and I'm not sure how if you're into this universe or not, man. I would have to be. Man, I remember as a kid, one of the coolest freaking creatures I was ever introduced to, and I always wanted to be one. And I was running around my yard acting like I was one, and I probably looked like a moron. Man, I would be an Andalite. Do you know what an Andalite is? Did you ever read Animorphs?
I read a couple of Animorphs, but I never got super in. I was a Goosebumps kid, so I was all about. I think I had 1 through 35, and then it got sporadic on the ones I
Okay.
got. But I had a good collection. I never got super into Animorphs.
Yes. Dude, Andalites were these aliens. They were the aliens that originated the power to be able to morph, right?
Yeah.
But basically, imagine sort of like a centaur, except much more slender and lean. Not big,
Right.
not super muscular, really lean, almost more like think less horse and more like deer. So like that, but there's fur all over. You know what? Let me just get a pic. Hold on just a second. I'm gonna grab a
No,
picture.
do you think? Oh, dude, I'm impressed. Mine are still in a truck somewhere. I have no idea where mine are at.
Yes, dude. I and by the way, totally back you up on the goosebumps. Man, can you
Yeah.
see that purple thing,
I
right?
got you. I got
So
you.
like
So
bladed.
it looks like a centaur, but it
Yes.
does instead of the body of a horse, it's got the body of like a deer, and it's a lot leaner, a lot
Yes.
sleeker.
And there's no mouth, so they communicate with telepathy. They got the extra eyes. They got this bladed tail that's like fractions of a second, and your head is just gone. And they eat grass through their hooves. These are the things that I remember about Andalite. So
All right.
that would be it.
I like it. I like it. I like it. A magical creature carousel. I feel like that's probably a Harry Potter world, but
Yes.
if not, then it should be. So someone build that and then sell it to Universal.
And we'll only take a little bit of the cut. We don't.
Only just a fraction, just enough to pay off my school loans, and I'm good. And I'm good. All right. So last little fun one. Where would you go in a time machine if you could go anywhere? Where would you go? Forward or backwards?
Oh yeah. Man, I'm a big fan of like the Middle Ages, medieval sort of aesthetic, but I think I would have to go to the future. I need to know what that's going to look like. I'm not saying like I would go to my future. I'm just saying I would like I would need to go to the future just to see what it ends up turning out like.
Oh, so many DBZ references you want to make.
You're right.
So many you want to make. But hold on. Let's make the reference and then to be continued.
There
And
you
then
go.
6 episodes later, after some filler stuff where like Piccolo is driving a car, why the hell would he need to learn how to drive a car?
You want to know something funny, man? So I've just started going back through a watch through of the full series, right? Because as a kid, I watched it on Cartoon Network, but I never got to see it all the way through.
Right.
So I've been watching it through, and one of the big things that that I was really looking forward to was that Bruce Faulconer music, right?
Yeah.
And I come to realize, like halfway through the series, there was an episode that wasn't on the site that I was watching them on, so I had to go somewhere else to watch that one. And suddenly I realized, it struck me like a punch in the face, that the entire time I've been watching the crappy Japanese score to the English dub and not the actual like Funimation Bruce Faulconer. So I've been listening to the original Japanese score, which is just bland as hell,
Yeah.
and not the actual Bruce Faulconer music. So I immediately remedied that. But now I feel like I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch the whole first half of the series because that's just trash. I'm so disappointed in myself.
Yeah. Well, it's like we have Daria on DVD and none of the original music is on it. Like, and it's like, what? But how are you? how do you release something that's so quintessential for the 90s without the 90s music? Like, come on,
Right?
you were MTV. You can't pull some strings? Come on. Come on. Get out of here. All right, so a couple more questions on sort of who you are in the videos that you do. So in your videos, again, which are awesome, I'll put all the links to the Muscle and Magicka at sidequestfitness.com/muscle and Magicka, so you guys can get that right there. That because I usually say /podcast, but you might listen to this later. So /muscle and Magicka, and you can go right to the YouTube and watch all of his stuff, and links to Facebook and Twitter as well, so you can follow him over there. But here's what I got to know: what is a bro mage?
Yes.
Because listen, I grew up, I was Screech, all right? Out of all my friends, we had this conversation one day, and we were like, well, if Saved by the Bell were real life, who would he be? And I was like, oh, I'm gonna be Zach. Like, I know it. Like, I'm cool. Like, I have a good style. Nope. Okay. Wait, that leaves Screech. Yep. Sorry, Robbie, you're gonna be Screech. And like, I was like, no, that's not how I see myself. That's exactly who I was. Exactly.
Right.
So, I was like, you know what, screw it. Then I'll be Slater. Like, I want to grow up and I play sports and like I love playing sports. Like, I'll be a bro. So when I hear people sort of sometimes knock on bros, I'm like, oh, whoa, hold on a second.
Yes.
You're hurting a little piece of me. But what is a bro mage?
So yeah, and I'm glad you said that because it's something that I mentioned in a video at one point because I definitely don't want people to get the wrong idea. I'm very bro myself sometimes. A bro mage comes from the root word bro magic, right? Which comes from the root word broscience. It's basically just the fun muscle and Magicka way of putting broscience, which is really what a bro mage is anyone who either willfully or unintentionally perpetuates misinformation. Okay, so a bro mage could be a supplement company that's lying to you because they want to sell you something, or a bro mage could be, and I made reference to like mind control spells and stuff like that. A bro mage could be a completely innocent person who is approaching his fitness in a less than optimal fashion just because he's been fed all of this stuff and he's been kind of mind controlled, right? Yeah. But bro magic itself, in a word, is misinformation.
Yeah. Okay.
There are malicious bro mages, and then there are just more innocent bro mages that if we get the opportunity, would be great to be able to talk to them and sort of shed light on their path, if you will.
Well, in watching your videos, I've been on the same path, man. I mean, when I started, it was like most people, bodybuilding.com, and not that there's. I mean, I have friends who've written for bodybuilding.com, and I used to order my supplements from them, because I listen, like every good bro, I like my post workout shake. I'm not running. Sure. I'm not running to get it 30 minutes later. I'll but all those things like eat 6 meals 30 minutes afterwards, like all this, all that, like you realize, later on it's not necessarily true, but it's so interesting that, that's sort of the things that are still perpetuated out there, especially when it comes to women and my female clients. I have to deal with this all the time.
I bet.
Well, I don't want to get bulky. You're not going to get bulky.
Yeah.
And I'll use words like tone you. We're going to tone you up. We're going to get you more energy. I'll use that because that's look, someone who speaks game like you do speaks to me. I know that. Other people, like, I love Alan. Alan's hilarious. He's awesome. But sometimes reading the stuff, I'm like, I put a dick joke or like put a video game reference or a superhero or like Star Wars, and I got you. Tie it up that way, and I got you.
I know exactly what you're saying. People understand a certain language, and there are things that they understand. And even though you, as a trainer, may know that there's some nuance to what you're saying, that's not exactly, you say it in a way that they can understand what you're talking about. And I think it's a really good point that you're making, which is that even though there are some pieces of bro magic or misinformation that's very obviously like just you need to ditch that and get rid of it, a lot of it has some merit to it, and it came from a place, and there's a reason that bros eat the way that they do and train the way that they do, and it's not so much it's all about understanding that it's not that this is right and this is wrong, and it doesn't really make much sense to sort of set up two camps and just knock each other, but more understanding this is maybe not optimal, certainly not necessary, and here's why it works. And there's a reason that it will sometimes work and sometimes not work. And then getting to the bottom of where those traditions come from, I think is a lot more valuable. But yeah, what I wanted to say there before I went on some weird little tangent and ended up somewhere that I'm not sure where, is that there's a lot of there's a lot of truth to a lot of those myths, even though they've then become corrupted and twisted a little bit and presented in a way which is maybe not entirely true. But
yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there. I still think sometimes when people start debating things, I'm like, listen, I'm just going to say this. If it worked for Arnold, then it works.
Right.
I was in Venice. I've seen the man doing curls, and the sunlight still glistens off of those biceps. It is the most glorious thing you'll ever see. Like, it stopped me in the middle of my workout, and I'm staring at it, and I'm like, it's majestic. You're 60-something, 70-something, and those biceps are still better than mine. Still better than mine.
And I feel very awkward right now, but I can't stop.
I can't stop looking at a grown man's arms because it's the Terminator. Like, it's the guy who, like, won all the bodybuilding. Like, people still want to be him. Even though now, like, that whole thing's gotten even weirder and more different and whatever. But, all right, so a couple of rapid fire questions. Well, we'll go to the rapid fire after this one.
Okay.
So, I'm a big believer. There's a great book. If you haven't read it, and I'll put this in the show notes as well, a great book by Jane McGonigal called, now I'm forgetting the name of the title, Why Games Make Us Better and Why They Can, like, solve the world, solve problems in the world. The title is off my head.
Okay.
But it's an amazing, amazing, amazing book. And she talks about why gamers are actually better suited to solve many of the problems in the world. And she gives a lot of references. She's also been a game designer. So why do you think, and I personally do, I do believe that gamers, we understand choices, the power of choice. Okay, I have this avocado or I have this bag of French fries. I'm gonna we understand choice. You can have both if you can fit it in your calories, but what's gonna benefit you more? What do you go with?
Right.
When it comes to the understanding story and the power of story, when it comes to understanding sometimes you have to make sacrifices to get a goal. I think that is something that's important that gamers understand. So what do you think makes gamers stand apart and why you believe they're better equipped for life's trials?
Right. Yeah, that's an incredible question. Well, the dexterity part aside, the fact that we develop our fine motor patterns, typing away and executing macro commands all the time, that's aside. I think that I'm going to attack this from sort of the MMO perspective, just because that's kind of where I come from. And obviously, a lot of people vilify MMOs, and they can be, just like anything else in the world, they can be used for good or they can be used for evil. They can be used or they can be abused, right? You can play the MMO or the MMO can play you. But I think that my experience anyway has been that I'm gonna attack this in a roundabout manner. I'm gonna tell you a story from back when I played Final Fantasy XI online. Was my first real MMO ever, right? And there was this time when I was in this cave, and in that game you could do nothing on your own. You always needed people, because there was stuff, even when you were max level, there was stuff that's just gonna like obliterate you, and it's you might just stumble upon it, right? So I'm in this cave, and I'm in this group with these two other guys who are both much higher level than me, and we all three needed the same key. So we're just killing. I think it was those Ochu Malboro monsters or whatever that you call them in Final Fantasy. But anyway, big old viney octopus things, which would have just one-shot me without a problem. And we're in there for a couple of hours. Both of them get their keys. It's just a random drop. It drops to whoever rolls the highest number, and they've both gotten their keys, and it's been a couple hours, so they have to leave, right? So now I'm stuck by myself in this cave I can't even get out of, because everything around me is trying to eat me. And this entire time that we were in there killing monsters, there's this other player who was a Japanese player because the Americans and the Japanese played on the same server, right? And this player the entire time has been shaking his fist at us. Literally, he's been doing the emote that was like slash angry or whatever, shaking his fist at us. I can only assume because he wanted to be killing those monsters, but we were killing them all before he could get to any of them or something like that. Final Fantasy XI had this. I swear I'm getting to a point. It will come to Final Fantasy XI had this auto translate system, which was terrible, but it was functional, where you could say a certain number of like very very basic phrases in the game and you would bring up this little auto translate feature, choose the phrase, and then it would say it, and whoever was reading it could read it in their language, right? Yeah. So we had this really really inaccurate conversation where I said to him, like, he said, we basically came to realize, I said, Key, do you need it? And he said, Key, I don't need it. Vine, do you have it? Right? And so what I came to realize was that he just wanted these Marlboro vines. I had like 80 of them because we had been killing Marlboros for like 20 minutes, right? So I traded him my 80 Marlboro vines. He joined up with me, and for another 2 hours, he fought monsters with me until my key dropped, okay? This made me realize, and this is where I'm going to get to the point of the question, man. I think that games, but especially I'm talking about MMOs here, force you to work with people, at least certain types of MMOs, force you to work with people in a way that almost I'm not going to say you don't in real life, but you're in situations where there's a very specific kind of problem presented to you, and you need a very specific kind of strategy, and communication is vital. And I think that MMOs allow you in sort of a safe environment to develop those communication skills in a very unique kind of way. Like, I know for me, it's funny because a lot of people have commented on the fact that if I'm texting or if I'm messaging, there's always a lot of exclamation points and there's always a lot of smileys. And the reason being, I grew up playing RuneScape and I grew up playing MMOs where in order to convey that you weren't just stone cold, like you had to use those tools to convey some emotion so that people didn't read your messages the wrong way. So MMOs have made me very aware of how I communicate with people and have made me take extra initiative, I think, that I certainly wouldn't have if I never played them. So I hope that makes some sense.
I think that I think what you were getting to and what I got from that is that as gamers, when you're doing something like an MMO, there is a cause greater than your own that you have to come together to conquer. And I think there are some things out there. Won't name the company, but they were aimed at gamers and turning fitness into a game, and they had a great idea and they just didn't see it through. Didn't see it through. And I think for a population like gamers, and this is my dream. So listeners, if you hear it and you do programming, then help me make my dream possible. I want, there's things like Habitica, which was formerly Habit RPG, but I want like a fitness online app, social network sort of thing where like people are working together, but you have challenges where, hey, all 100,000 people that are users on the app, we have to take down this giant boss, and we can only be done if we all do 50 reps of goblet squats. Like, everyone's got to do it. Like, everyone's working together, because if we're gonna beat obesity worldwide, this is not just a United States problem. It's a worldwide epidemic. If we're gonna beat this, there is no population I know better that could show the world how to do it than gamers, because we've already done it. We've saved the fucking galaxy in Mass Effect. We've stopped the zombies in Resident Evil. We've done all of these amazing things, including saving countless princesses, because there are no half-saved princesses, and all we're doing right now is half-saving princesses. If we want people that can show people how to do it, it's gamers that can show the world. And that's why after reading, and I found the title of the book, Reality is Broken, Why Games Make Us Better and How They Can Change the World by Jay McGonigal. Okay. She is right that gamers can make that difference. And that's why I think that gamers are more equipped for those trials. We understand what it's like to go to grind, grind constantly to get to a level. We understand what it's like to go through, adversaries and level up and do things that maybe we don't necessarily want to do right now, but we know if we go get that stupid sword, it's really going to help us on this quest.
Yeah.
So
we also know how to make mistakes and then suffer the consequences and learn from them and come back and approach it in a different way the next time.
We also know how to break controllers when we get mad at making the same mistakes and have to spend another $50 on them. We do know that as well. We have some rage problems sometimes. All right, so a couple quick fire things because we're coming up well over an hour. But this, dude, we could talk. We could talk for days.
Yeah, man.
All right, worst game ever created.
Worst. Sorry, I'm terrible at rapid fire sometimes. What's the worst game? Man, I'm so bad at rapid fire. Okay, hold on. I had to because I don't want to say it.
Most underrated game ever created.
Man, let me start rapid fire over again. Hold on. Okay. I gotta get my head in the game. Sometimes I'm either really good at this or I'm really, really bad at it. Okay. All right, hold on. Let me take a sip of some Diet Fresca and get myself.
Diet Fresca, there we go. Get some orange soda. Who loves orange soda? Kel loves orange soda. I do.
Wait a minute. I know that reference, but I can't place it.
Keenan and Kel, baby. Keenan and Kel. When they left all that, yeah.
Okay, let me try again.
All right, worst game ever created.
Barbie's Underwater Adventure.
Hello Kitty Island.
Yeah, I watched my sister play it. I may or may not have played a round or two.
It happens sometimes. Most underrated game ever created.
Most underrated game ever created. Dude, Killer Instinct.
That's a good call. It's a fighting game that and I'm glad they brought it back on the Xbox One, but it was a great fighting game.
Yes,
but
man.
It just disappeared behind Tekken and Mortal Kombat.
I feel like if it had kept up, I would have been even more into it than I am into Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. What video game quote guides your drive in life?
Ooh, man. Oh, snap. Yeah, I'm gonna have to come back to that one.
All right, so when you're cutting, because I know you've done some videos on it, are you a high fat, low carb cutter, or do you prefer to stay sort of moderate?
I'm pretty moderate. I've got a pretty high body fat set point, and I'm pretty, if you want to use these terms, I'm pretty endomorphic.
Right.
So my calories have to go pretty low, and my carbs end up having to go pretty low because I get to the point where I can't bring fat down anymore. So I don't really do high. I definitely don't do high carb. I have to stay kind of moderate with both, but they both end up going down.
All right. What game got you into gaming?
Ooh, Zelda. Just in general, the first one was Link's Awakening, but Zelda in general is what hooked me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So back to the video game quote. It doesn't have to be one that even drives you, but what is your favorite video game quote?
Okay. Man. It's funny too because I made that one video with all those video game quotes and now I can't think of any of them. What was that one? You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and quote Parthenax on this one. Parthenax from Skyrim. He said something along the lines of, and I kind of feel bad using this one because it's one of the more popular, well-known ones. I would have liked to have grabbed a more obscure one, but for now, until I have a chance to redeem myself, he said something along the lines of, what is better, to be born good, or to overcome your evil nature through great through great dedication and determination, or something along those lines. Which was going back to everything we were talking about, Goku versus Vegeta, and like, what's better, to be the kind of person who just is a goody two shoes, who makes good choices because they're good, or to actually have some flaws and have to overcome something and have to go through that, to have to go over obstacles to get to that same point.
I agree. When I saw that one, I was like, yep. That was one of my favorite lines from Skyrim. There's so many great things, but that one, yeah, because I agree. Is it better? I don't know. We'll leave people with that.
There you go.
Ransom, I've had an amazing time. You are welcome back on this show anytime. If people want to know more about you, where can they find you online?
As of right now, I don't have a website. I have some Facebook and Instagram, but they all lead back to my primary base right now is YouTube, and that is my channel Muscle and Magicka, with an ampersand. And if you want to do my custom link is kind of weird. It's youtube.com/c/Muscle Magicka Quest. But if you just search Muscle and Magicka, you'll find me. You'll find me there.
And I'll have the links as well. SideQuestFitness.com/Muscle and Magicka. So I'll have the links there for Twitter, for Facebook, for YouTube. Might even put up a little YouTube embed so you can watch his intro video or one of his videos, because they are fantastic, and he covers everything. I mean, we're talking intermittent fasting, which I've not covered yet on my site, only because I've moved away from it. I do enjoy it, but
sure.
I've moved away from it. I just really like oatmeal. This bulk got me really liking oatmeal in the morning, so I'm like, I'm gonna eat my oatmeal.
Yes, it's a tragedy being someone who loves breakfast food as much as I do. And I still eat breakfast foods, but at all times of the day except for breakfast. It's like this weird twist of fate.
But he covers. I mean, everything from training philosophies to macros, how to get started if you're new. Great resource. Maybe someday we'll work on something together. I don't know. We'll throw that out there. We'll see. We'll talk about it.
Yes.
But I've had an amazing time. And
likewise.
Guys, please head over and check him out. Thank you so much for coming on, Ransom.
Thank you, my friend. It has been an absolute honor, and we will already immediately schedule our next co-op quest.
And then I'll edit things.
Sounds good, man.
Yeah. It was the crazy thing about the Dreamcast is there is a ROM you can download online, and it goes on like an 80-minute CDR, and it has like every Nintendo, Super Nintendo, like Genesis, and like the crazy weird Japanese game. I can't remember the name of it, but it was like a Ashido or Ashido something. It was Japanese. I don't speak Japanese.
Okay. Akira?
No, it was like a plain game where like you had to like deflect things, and you had to change your color to deflect the different colored like bullets that were coming at you. Quote unquote the hardest game. What was his name? The guy that used to do G4, and then he had a thing on Revision for a while.
Okay, I know who you're talking about.
The bald guy. Why am I forgetting his name now? Like, I should know his name. He said it was literally the hardest game like ever made.
Wow.
But like that and a bunch of other crazy stuff, and you could play that CDR only on a Dreamcast. So every game you could ever want was as an emulator sitting on this. And my friend showed me that. I was like, all right, the Dreamcast just became like the only system you ever need.
Dang, man.
It's crazy. It was crazy. Yeah. So there's a lot of video game things where, when I get into the show, we'll talk about that. But
okay.
Yeah, dude, your video quality, what you go into, I mean, all of it is just it's just so good, and the humor is there, and the Zelda sword, and just everything else. I mean,
I'm glad you spotted that. I'm glad you appreciate that where the sword was from.
Yeah, I just like the whole thing. I'm like, oh man, like this is like, because that's sort of where I'm trying to take my coaching there now, where my clients, every month they have a new quest, and at the end of the month, the fourth week of the month, they have a boss battle.
Okay.
And
yeah.
I'm creating different bosses, and then there's some other bosses from video games. But, you know, when you're, like, doing fat loss, like, most people, from what I've noticed, like, the third, fourth week, they're like, ugh, I'm really bored with this.
Right.
So I give them a challenge, and it's based on the same things they've been doing. I just implement, you know, I tweak their times and their tempos and their rhythms, or, you know, the volume that they're doing. You've got 6 rounds of 10 reps with half the weight you've been doing. It's going to kick, you know, it's going to whoop them.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, but that's where I've been going with like my online clients, and then just like seeing your stuff, I'm like, I feel like I'm not even nerding out the way I should nerd out. Like I texted a friend of mine. I was like, listen, you need to go watch his stuff right now because he's about to out nerd me.
Hey man, you know what though? I mean, it's different. It's just different approaches and different. There's so many different realms of and avenues in which our nerdiness it leaves our bodies, our pores, you know. Yeah. And I don't think it's. I think it's just a matter of what opportunities present themselves at what times, and you know where your tendencies happen to lean. But it's all good, man. I don't think I haven't had a chance to check out. I'm gonna have to go to your website and check that out and listen to some of your other podcasts and stuff like that.
Wait a couple days.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you this because when this episode goes up, it'll be officially out. But you can check out the new site that's going up later this week.
Okay.
And then so I'm actually giving away an awesome 28-day training program that is set up and styled in an old school video game manual, and it looks really, really
nice.
Cool. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah. And I introduce everyone to like the concept of the boss battle and my points-based nutrition system, which I'm still working on and figuring out. Because I I understand counting calories, but it's intimidating to a lot of people, and
sure.
I don't know. The nerd side of me was like, yeah, you can have that soda. But that soda is 5 points and you only get 10 today. What is a better attack on the boss for the day? The soda or the oatmeal?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, the new site's got some 8-bit stuff and it's looking cool. So anyways,